it's Abby here in Cusco, Peru on Wednesday, the 8th of February, 2023, where we are having what is allegedly going to be our last day of truce for a while in the protests that have been ongoing. President Dina Boluarte has appeared a number of times throughout the past couple of days saying that she does not believe the majority of Peruvians want her to resign, despite polling indicating that it is anywhere from 71 to 79% of Peruvians who want her to resign. And she says she is not going to resign no matter what, and that her resigning would serve no purpose whatsoever. So that's not going to happen. Congress has another session today to vote on a number of things, and they need to reach an accord as far as whether or not to move elections forward by the 15th of February, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen. So that doesn't look like that is going to calm protesting down about that either. Speaking of protesting, Peru's largest union and a number of mid-sized unions and other large unions, as well as a lot of regional and just citywide unions, have all agreed to the strike that has been called for an indefinite period of time beginning tomorrow. And around Cusco, the word is that markets will not be opening, that public transit will not be running, taxis will not be running. They will all be upholding the strike. So that means it's a good idea for you to go out today, Wednesday, and pick up anything that you need, that you want to have stocked up on. So I'm planning on sending my nephew out to stock up on food for a few days because, you know, that's the way it is. Anyway, the large unions have also said that they plan around the Cusco area to give tregua, or truces, for Saturdays and Sundays for the next few weeks at least. So the expectation should be that you probably can go from place to place Saturday and Sunday, that there probably will be public transit running, markets open, and that kind of stuff. But then a lot of that probably depends on how stuff goes in terms of the news coming out of Congress and so forth. There's a lot of other news around Peru as well. For example, a massive landslide in Arequipa, in a rural mining community in the region of Arequipa, buried most of an entire town, killed at least 20, and there are at least 20 still missing, probably dead. Really very ugly and unpleasant. There has been a marked rise in violent crime all over the place, possibly because organized criminals know that police are pretty busy right now, doing whatever policing action they are supposed to be doing surrounding protests, possibly just standard organized crime activity. There was an entire family shot and killed in Lima, literally an entire family. Apparently the parents in that family had a number of prior convictions for fraud and were involved in organized crime. So there's that. Let's see. So there's all of that kind of stuff. Vladimir Cerrón, who is the head of the Peru Libre party, formerly the party of Pedro Castillo and the recently ousted president, and Dina Boluarte, the current president, has been sentenced to 4 years for corruption relating to a project to build an airport in Huancayo that did not materialize. So he's appealing that, and I guess we see where that goes. There's a whole lot of discussion and debate regarding whose fault it is that Congress cannot reach an agreement, and as I see it, watching the debates on it daily, exactly whose fault it is everybody in Congress who doesn't want to lose their job. who doesn't want to stop making 30,000 soles a month or whatever it is. And it's sort of, there's enough responsibility to bounce around. At present, it looks like the party of Keiko Fujimori, the daughter of Peru's last dictator, her party appears to be in favor of moving up elections, which then means a number of left-wing parties are kind of like, oh, well, if the far-right party is in favor of it, that can't be good because that means they think they've got this sealed up. And then there are other parties who have said, well, we can move up elections, but we're definitely not doing a constitutional assembly. And then other parties are saying, no, there's no point in moving up elections if we don't make any constitutional changes, because then we're just going to be in the same mess that we've been in for this whole time. And then other people are like, well, the Constitution is good. And then other people say, no, the Constitution is bad because it has all these flaws, because it's very young and it needs amendment no matter what. And then other people say, screw the Constitution. It was a dictator's Constitution to begin with, and it only benefits the political elite. And so these are some of the positions that people are taking. And I wouldn't begin to try and tell you what position is the morally upstanding and moral high ground position, because it does not appear to me that anybody in Peruvian politics has anything particularly resembling a moral high ground, possibly ever. So that's it's never boring. I'll say that much. It is hard to understand without the benefit of a whole lot of history. And now, I grew up here. I went to Peruvian public school through primary school. That was, of course, multiple eras ago, back in the 1970s and 1980s, and all of that sort of thing. And so there's been a lot of change in Peru since then and everything, but just suffice it to say that I have been following Peruvian politics pretty much all my life. Well, all my life, really. I mean, it's hard to start following any kind of politics when you're like under the age of 4. But so, there's all of that. And I think without understanding the history, the recent history of the past 30 years, let alone the somewhat recent history of the past 60 years, let alone the since independence history of the past 200 years, 201, and never mind the history going back 500 years of colonization and all of that kind of thing. It's really hard to get a firm grip on what's going on in Peruvian politics, let alone feel confident that you have a well-developed opinion on a lot of this kind of stuff. And it is impossible for anybody who does have all of that much context to have lived in Peru and acquired all that much context without having some sort of partisan feelings when it comes to all of that kind of stuff. So, that's part of what is very interesting and exciting about trying to provide sort of just the facts in all of this as much as possible, and to let people know what the situation is on the ground. So yeah, a lot of the questions that keep coming up over and over again are, is it still okay to travel to Peru? And my answer is yes. And people are like, well, is it safe? Is it safe there? And, more people have died in mass shootings in the USA since the start of the year than have died in protests in the past 2 months under the Boluarte presidency. There's civil unrest everywhere in the world. And for the most part, what that looks like is people marching peacefully in the streets. And on very rare occasions, it gets more raucous than that. And in specific places. In Cusco, particularly, which is the, tourism capital of Peru, things are really fairly calm. And the disruptions that are occurring are primarily things that are going to affect people who live here, not people who are coming to visit. Although actually there are a lot of reports of things being wide open that normally it's hard to get tickets for, and that there are great prices to be had and a whole lot of that kind of stuff. So from that perspective, it's a great time for flexible travelers to come to the Cusco area and enjoy what they want to do. I would say people keep saying, yeah, but is it worth going if I can't go to Machu Picchu? Because, coming up, you'll see a little bit about the train also. Is it worth going if I can't go to Machu Picchu? And my answer is, I live here and I love it here and I do interesting things every day. Okay, well, not right now because I'm on bed rest for falling down the stairs. But, other than that, I do interesting things every day, and I do not go to Machu Picchu every day because it is... it's like saying, is it worth going to the United States if I can't go to Niagara Falls? Is it worth going to the United States if I can't go to Las Vegas? If I'm not going to go to the Golden Gate Bridge, is it even worth going to the United States or going to California? There's so much more. There's a lot going on here and everything. And a lot of people actually feel like those heavily touristified attractions are not the coolest part of the whole thing. But I digress. The point I was going to make right now is no, you still cannot go to Machu Picchu because it is still closed. So the Inca Trail, the hike to Machu Picchu, closes every February for routine maintenance and doesn't open until the beginning of March. And so I wouldn't be surprised if the site also stayed closed until then, because there's just not that many tourists. Since 95% of foreign tourists have canceled their plans to come to Peru, and all of the domestic travelers are going to northern Peru and to other parts of Peru for their summer vacations, if you open stuff up and staff it, you've got to pay people, right? And if nobody shows up and pays admission, then you're losing money. So, the operators of heavily money-making things in many cases have laid off staff, told them to go on vacation right now, giving them unpaid leave and that kind of stuff, because there's no money coming in. So things are closed from that perspective. So until people start showing up in Peru, I don't know, there's not like huge incentives to start opening Machu Picchu or anything like that. Is one thing. The little bit about the train coming up, I'm going to splice in from a shorter video that I made just to put on Instagram, because you can only do shorter things there really viably. Anyway, yeah, so is it still worth coming here? Yes, there's like 9 million other things that you can do. There's so much that you can do. Other archaeological sites, food, traveling in general, really cool terrain, awesome hikes, adventure travel like whitewater rafting, although maybe pick your rivers carefully during the big rainy season and all of that kind of stuff. And I mean, there's just so much, right? So yeah, it's still worth coming. But if you're somebody who expects your travel to go with absolutely no disruption whatsoever and no fluctuation in schedule, well, good luck in most of Latin America under most conditions anyway, but especially, that's probably not likely in Peru right now. What are some things you really shouldn't do? Go to Puno right now, which is literally under martial law. I mean, in brief, I've explained that in some past videos, what that means. But yeah, so yeah, like there's that. Go to Puno, go to Bolivia via the land route, but you can do a whole lot of other stuff, and there are things outside of Cusco to do as well. I, of course, grew up in Cusco and live in Cusco, and so I know more about Cusco than I know about parts of Peru that I have never been to. So I am freely admitting all of that. Anyway, so that's the deal. So yeah, so what are my recommendations today, Wednesday, the 8th of February, 2023? If you're in Cusco and you live here, go out and buy your supplies today, because markets don't plan to open tomorrow, public transit and taxis don't plan to run, and all of that sort of thing. But if everything about the treguas that they're giving is going to continue as it was said that it would be a couple of days ago, then Saturday and Sunday you should have normal transit again. We should have normal transit again, and that's where we're at. So I think that's it for today. Do keep your eyes on the news about Peruvian politics, because yeah. Anyway, bye-bye. Talk to you soon. Hey everybody, Abby here in Cusco on Wednesday, the 8th of February, 2023. And one of the big news items is that the train to Machu Picchu is running again. Now, hold on, before you get all excited about this, what does this actually mean? What this actually means is that 2 days a week, they're going to run a quote-unquote humanitarian hybrid service train to Aguascalientes and Hidroelectrica, the hydroelectric plant downstream of Aguascalientes, from Ollantaytambo and back. And there's going to be like 1, maybe 2 cars at the local price, which is 5 to 8 soles, and then the rest of the cars will be at tourist prices, which are $50 plus each way. So this is what they did in the pandemic as well, where they ran occasional service, or a couple of times a week, trains that had 2 classes of service. And one was the mandated cheap local price that they're supposed to run and everything according to the terms of their concession, and the other was the tourist price. And so basically what happened was people who need to get to Aguascalientes or the hydroelectric plant because they live there or have family there or business there or what have you, if they weren't able to buy some of the sell out fast local price tickets, then they would have to pay, tons more. So between 5 soles to $50 is a huge difference. That's like I don't know, 200 times the price or something. So anyway, yeah, so that is the key thing. This does not mean that as a tourist you can go to the archaeological site. That is still closed. I repeat, the archaeological site at Machu Picchu is still closed. You still can't go. And there's still no date that has been published regarding when that's going to reopen. And I mean, I think March seems like a likely enough bet, but we don't know. It's going to be day by day. We don't know. You can't go to Machu Picchu right now, today. You still can't go and see the archaeological site. Okay? So yes, there are some trains running, but you still can't go do the tourist thing. Just want to clear that up.